Hello there, my name is Mike, and welcome to Labcoat Survivor. Labcoat Survivor. I'm still getting used to this. Anyway, the premise of this series is to take the Long Dark, a game that has been recently released on Steam Early Access. It was a Kickstarter game by Hinterlands, and it has received a fair bit of good reception for it. Now, survival and, wilderness survival, harsh condition survival is a pastime for many people and subject to many discussions of certain details of how to do it, what's the best place. What we'd like to do in this series is to introduce a little bit of scientific theory and testing, hypothesis testing, and also just general discovery through eagle-eyed, just observation, period. So, in this case, our first experiment is going to be the rate of calorie burns, or rather, the rate of calorie burn, and what affects calorie burn, walking, running, weight, conditions, and stuff like that. So, for this first experiment, we're going to have to actually establish a control. Our control being that we don't have any condition ailments, that we don't have any illnesses, and that we don't have any weight whatsoever.
I could use this.
And we don't have to worry about hunger, thirst, cold, or anything like that. The only thing we really have to worry about is fatigue. But we will stop the experiment for resting and stuff like that. And so we'll be keeping track of how many calories are burned during a certain activity at what parameters. Now, to start off with, we're going to start with standing still. Now, standing still is thankfully the easiest experiment to run. As you can see, we are given a calories per hour burn rate of 150 calories per hour, which is very useful because the game is giving us this information to say, okay, this is the benchmark in which calories are burned. And for us, it's very useful to know whether or not the game is actually correct in telling us this information, whether it's lying to us or fuzzing some numbers or anything like that. It's important to establish that, in fact, the number that the game is giving us is in fact true. For this experiment, we are starting off with 0 weight, and we have the fire in the background to make sure that we don't have to worry about cold or anything like that. Hunger. At this point in the experiment, this was a little bit later, but the hunger is not going to affect this. Thirst, we've already taken care of thirst. And no clothes whatsoever, so pretty much it's going to be sitting around and waiting to make sure that in fact the calorie per hour is 150 calories per hour. So we started this at 1,150 calories, and so pretty much our target is 1 hour past. We started at, I believe, 10:01. Let me double check. Yep. 10:01 a.m. we started. That's when the experiment started, and we were at 1,150 calories. And so our end testing is going to be 11:01, and we're going to be looking for 1,000 calories remaining. So we're gonna fast forward through this, and we're gonna go straight to the end. So here we are at the conclusion of the control. It was about 5 minutes of real time, 5 minutes and 0 seconds of real time, about 300 seconds of real time. So in the in-game time, it was 60 minutes, 1 hour, 3,600 seconds, and as the readout shows, we have 1,000 calories stored. So that means that we burned 150 calories in that hour. That means the game is telling us the truth. When we are standing still, not doing anything, with no other conditions or inhabilitations affecting us, that in fact we are burning the correct amount of calories per hour, which is 150. So our control is a success, which means that we can move on to the next test, which is constant movement. So for this phase of control, as you can see, we made sure that our weight was at 0, 0. For this phase of control, we are going to be constantly moving. In this case, we're going to be constantly walking forward, sideways, anything, just constant movement for about an hour, because unfortunately the tab doesn't show time, or when you're not tabbed into your inventory, it doesn't show time anywhere. So we're going to try to make it at about an hour of constant movement. And we're going to start 2,300 calories starting at 6:12, and we're going to end the experiment at about 7:03. So I missed the hour thing, but I was also timing this, going off a timer that I've been trying to do. More on that later anyway. So at 7:03, that's when the experiment ends, and we're going to be looking for 200 and, let's see, or rather 2,150 calories, because that's the standard burn rate that the game gives us. However, the one thing to consider is that, just in basic biology, is that movement consumes calories faster than a organism standing at rest. So we're going to be expecting to burn more calories here. How many calories? Not really sure. The research that I've done as far as walking, as far as like calorie burns and whatnot, we don't know the character here, Mackenzie. That's our avatar that we're using. We don't really know his vital statistics as far as height, weight, body fat, or anything like that. So we kind of have to assume something. So in this case, I'm going to assume that Mackenzie is about a 200-pound individual, maybe about 6 feet, maybe give or take a couple inches either way. So usually at about that, a 200-pound person walking about 3 miles per hour for about 51 minutes. That was the total length of this experiment, or in-game time, so to speak, is about 283 calories per that time. So we're going to skip to the end, and we're going to see what the results are. And here we arrive at the end of our constant walking control experiment. So the numbers are, we walked for 4 minutes 10 seconds of real time, which is 250 seconds of real time. The in-game duration was 51 minutes total time elapsed, which is about 3,060 seconds. And we have a final calorie burn of 280. So the numbers to crunch on that is, doing a calories per hour, we have about 329.41 calories per hour burned in game. That's sort of the curve that we're looking at. In real time, that makes out to about 1.12 calories per second of real time, or about 67.2 calories per minute in real time. So what does this tell us? We are looking pretty good. I mean, for the 200 pounds, at 3 miles an hour for about 51 minutes is about 283 calories burned. So having 280 calories burned was kind of on the money. So I'm kind of going to, for the rest of these experiments, I'm going to assume that Mackenzie is about 200 pounds. Big guy, tall guy, whatever. So far it's meeting our projections for walking and whatnot. So indeed, calories per hour when you're standing still is correct, but it does not account for walking. So that's an important thing to keep in mind going forward. Now for the next test, we are going to be constantly running. And welcome to the running portion of the control. As you can see, I'm double checking to make sure that my equipment is at 0 weight. And we will be starting this experiment at 8:44 with 1,800 calories in the bank, 1,800 calories. and we will be ending this experiment at 9:38 in-game time, in about 54 minutes. Trying to get as close to an hour as I can. More on that later. So for this portion, we are expecting to burn about double as much as we were when we were walking. So, double 280 calories. Now, for as far as information on fitness and whatnot, it gets a little bit more guesswork, or it requires a lot more information about how far you run, what's your weight, what's your height, how much blood are you pumping, what's your pulse, and stuff like that. So the numbers tend to be a little bit more fuzzier without an actual person doing this and gauging against what the in-game avatar should be doing. So for one resource, 200 pounds, as I said, I'm going to consider Mackenzie to be about 200 pounds or something like that. So 200 pounds at 6 miles an hour, which is double time the speed of walking, for 54 minutes. In the case that's the duration of the test. He would be burning 864 calories during that 54 minutes, which is well more than double than the 280 calories burned walking. So, looking at another resource, 200 pounds at about 6 feet, 35 years old, jogging, that comes around to 572 calories burned. However, that's making more assumptions on the avatar, weight, health, just putting those in within the calculations and whatnot. Now, for this experiment, it turned into something interesting, especially with the time measurement, as I'll get into later after this experiment. So let's just fast forward to the end, and we will show what happens. So here we are at the end of the constant running control test. So we started this at 8:44 in-game time at 1,800 calories, that's 1,800 calories, and ended at 9:38 in-game time at 1,213 calories, that's 1,213 calories. So this took 4 minutes 30 seconds of real time, that's 270 seconds in real time. The duration of the test in game time was 54 minutes, and that's 3,240 seconds. And we ended with 587 calories burned. So doing the math on that, that is about 652.22 calories per hour. It's about there. So in real time, this translates to 2.17 calories per second in real time, or about 130.44 repeating calories per minute real time. So how does this stack up against the data that I went off-site for? It's hard to say if it's consistent or not. Again, there are certain facts that we don't know about the Mackenzie character, the avatar. His weight, his height, his age, how fast is he jogging. I mean, I go for about 6 miles per hour just judging off that. So it's closer to a general, in this case it was close to the more specific one that I looked at, but the general one was way off track. So at this point, the raw data suggests that, that's 587 is what he's burning. But in the case of what he could be burning, it's not really consistent yet. So this may be Hinterland giving us a little bit more leeway with that. So here's the interesting thing I observed while performing these initial control tests. Now, for this one, this was the first one I did. It's about 1 o'clock, so I was timing out in real time on a stopwatch how long an in-game hour was in real time. And what I came up with was 3 minutes 40 seconds. So at night, that's what it was. So I figured that, okay, that time is constant throughout this. What I discovered was, as I was performing the other tests, like the the other standing, the walking, and the running was at 6:12 in-game time. 51 minutes was 4 minutes and 10 seconds, so that wasn't even an hour, but even then, that was more than the actual hour at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then at 8:44, 4 minutes 30 seconds was only 54 minutes. Not even an hour, but still more than the 3 minutes 40 seconds. And finally, at the standing still at 10 o'clock or 10:01 in the morning, the time for an hour in real time was 5 minutes. So, what this is showing is that time is compressing in the evening, or at midnight hours, in the evening and midnight hours. This is interesting in the sense that time is even compressed even in real time, so to speak, when you're actually going out playing it, as opposed to like sleeping off or crafting or foraging, because those are usual time compression moments in the game where they just say, okay, you're just spending an hour doing this. So it's interesting to know that even during normal gameplay, time is compressing. So that is an interesting thing to actually put some tests to. Now then, as far as the actual test that we have before us with calorie burns, we have two hypotheses to test. That calorie burn will increase linearly with controlled conditions, such as adding in more weight, different condition destabilizers, starving, sick, very cold, very tired, very thirsty, starving. And the second hypothesis is that calories are less efficient at night. So, when we return with the next video, we will start putting on weight and seeing what the calorie burn will be for those things. I'll do the background homework in the beginning to show that yes, I'm doing the standstill tests with the increased weight and see what the calories per hour is shown in the menu versus walking and running and stuff like that. And then we'll move on to more advanced stuff like walking outside, running outside, and stuff like that to see if there's in comparison if it's cold or if it's just snow or if it's blizzard or anything like that. So we've got quite a fair bit of testing to do, but already we've come up with some interesting observations about the long dark and its mechanics. So I hope you'll join me next time. I'm Mike, and thank you for watching Labcoat Survival.